about when we rotate alfalfa stands. Okay, we talked about seeding alfalfa and some of the principles that are important. Now we want to talk about the fact that you've had that alfalfa out there for 3 to 4 years. You need to kind of make a decision in the process as this alfalfa stand is producing for you during the years 1, 2, and 3. When is the stand going to come out of production? And Kevin just opened up a nice little handout there. If you want to take a look at this little brochure that looks like this on the front. It's got a little picture of a guy holding some alfalfa plants, and then if you flip it open, it's got a nice little pictorial in the middle. So this little chart is on that handout as well. But as we think about alfalfa, as these stands get older, they do not yield as much, and this sounds like Mr. Obvious in front of you here today, but I still got to say this. These stands do not yield as much in year number 4 as they did back here in year number 2. I mean, it's just a fact of life. But these plants are not going to be as productive as that stand ages. And so this is basically, this blue line is generated from 1971 till about 2010. Dan Undersander and his staff actually looked at all of the alfalfa varieties entered in the University of Wisconsin state trials and basically developed this line in about a 30-plus year period, showing that alfalfa yields decline over time. And again, I'm not trying to be obvious, but I want to say this, is that we need to think about rotating these stands at a reasonable time when the yield is still fairly high. I believe that a lot of farmers, dairy producers, and alfalfa growers tend to wait until they have some catastrophic disappointment in their alfalfa. I mean, I hear a lot of, stand winter kill. Well, that stand winter kill, did it winter kill because it winter killed, or did it winter kill because it was already on its way out, right? And so there's some of these things that happen to us you just got to think about scientifically. There's a reason why this line is doing this. If you think about this little piece of literature we have on the table here, and if you want to flip to the middle of it, the little piece that looks like this, the center of this tells the story, is that each of these alfalfa crowns, as they age, become less productive, and the risk of them disappearing over winter or during the summer. And by the way, winter kill just doesn't happen in the winter. It happens, basically, these plants are dying all through the life of the stand. And so every time you cut alfalfa, some of these plants disappear. It doesn't just happen over winter. It happens all through the life of the stand that these plants are disappearing. And when you stop and look at these individual crowns, you'll see that a healthy crown will score 0. And then we have a scoring system, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Everybody see what number 5 says? Everybody see number 5, those of you that are holding it, okay? So 5 is basically where we don't want to be. And so like I said before, every time you cut alfalfa, there are plants that are disappearing in that population. And so what we want to make sure is that the roots score in about this area of 3. If they score 4, it's time to take that stand out of production, okay? If it scores 0, 1, or 2, and moving into 3, that's okay. But then once we start to move past 3, then it's time to take that stand out of production. Now, here's the important point about this. When you look at these alfalfa stands, you will look at these scores of 3s and you're going like, man, that's a lot of hay out there, right? Those stands still look pretty good. And I will guarantee you that you'll start digging, if you do this process and you dig these roots, you're going to be digging scores of 4s and you're going like, man, there's a lot of hay out here. This really looks good, right? And you're going to do this process and you're going to keep digging and you're going to go like, that's scores of 5, but man, there's a lot of hay out here. The stand really looks good. So our point is that these will fool you on top of the ground. These roots will be telling a different story than sometimes going on top on the soil, on what's growing out at the top of the plant. And so you've got a period of time of about a year in here, and it usually happens in this 3-year time frame. This is what we've learned over the years with alfalfa. If you're cutting intensely, that's why we say 3 years of production and out. Because once you start to move into this 4th year, that's when these roots start to fall apart on us, right? They start to score in this 3.5 to 4. So numerically, what you can do as a crop scout, you can actually just dig the crowns, dig a half a dozen crowns or a dozen crowns out of a representative field, basically score them and do a rating system, end up with a number 3.8. That field should probably go. Dig a bunch of roots, scores 2.2. Good field, we're going to keep that one, right? So you make those kind of decisions based upon the science of basically of crown health. The other part of this discussion is what we call stand density. So there's really two pieces to this. The other piece is stand density, okay? So stand density is really that how many plants do I have in a square foot, okay? And I'll carry this one step further, how many stems do I have in a square foot, right? So the real important part about this is that you need to think about what's actually going on inside of this round foot. Now, I'll make a little bit of a point about this, but I've been on a lot of farms where a grower will say something to the effect that I got a great stand of alfalfa, it's been out there 5 years, right? I say, well, let's go look at it. Let's take a look at it. And you take the ring out there, and you throw it on the ground, and guess what you find in there? No alfalfa, right? Great field, been there 5 years. My joke is, what's 0 times 0? Well, it's still 0. So if you think about the math on this, and you think about what's going on economically, is as these stands decline, they will not produce as much, and we lose yield potential here. You can have that. So I got a couple more here if you guys want to hear Kevin. So
what actually is alive?
Yeah, so so the question up here is what's going on inside of there. So there's basically what we call a cocktail of pathogens, and so there's Fusarium would be one of the. There's a couple more up there. Fusarium would be one of the organisms that's in there, but yes, it's rotting. And it's basically just a whole cocktail of pathogens that are basically destroying that crown from the inside out. I was watching something on TV the other day about, when they were taking a tree down next to somebody's house, but basically the inside of a tree goes through that same process. I mean, it's basically a decay. And they're called saprophytes. I mean, they're basically fungi that are destroying that crown over time. Now, through plant breeding, we kept those alfalfa crowns productive and alive in a very, the soil wants to basically do what? The soil wants to just basically break down organic matter. And whether it's dead or living, in a way, doesn't matter. That soil is trying to break that living matter down. And that's what's going on there, is you basically have pathogens that are trying to break those crowns down and kill them. Okay? So the other piece on this reading the stand deal is this. How many of you guys corn producers here? Well, you're probably all corn producers. And you raise alfalfa for your dairies and for your livestock operations. One of the pieces on this reading the stand that I want to share with you, and it's on this handout that Kevin has for you here, is that we need to think about this, that about 120 to 150 units of N is possible from every alfalfa stand that you take out of production and roll it to corn. There's 120 to maybe up to 150 units of nitrogen that's coming out of that alfalfa crown, those dead crowns, or those crowns that you're taking out of production. There's 120 to 150 units of N. Now, if you do the math on that, whatever the price of nitrogen is that you're thinking about purchasing to raise corn, you already have that nitrogen in this alfalfa. Now, my point is that you need to, and it seems, again, Mr. Obvious here, but you have to think this through, is that I need to have you rotate the alfalfa, take that older alfalfa field out of production, and go over to another field and seed a new field down before we can take this nitrogen credit, right? So these dollars are real, and they come right back to your corn, and I call it the salvage value of alfalfa. So 3 years of production of alfalfa, take the nitrogen credit, raise some relatively cheap corn on this alfalfa field, and now you rotate, plant another field of alfalfa, get that new field going, and we've always got this nitrogen machine going, right? Now, you're going to argue with me that, well, I'm the guy selling the alfalfa seed, but, on the other hand, you got a choice here. At Federated Co-op, you can buy nitrogen or you can buy alfalfa seed. We think that alfalfa seed makes a lot of sense because you're making feed out of this, plus you're getting the salvage value of this nitrogen, which is very valuable to a corn crop. So this whole thing about crop rotation, the value of this alfalfa to go a couple years of corn. The other piece on this that maybe doesn't get mentioned, and one of my slides had a footnote on this, but we're probably still pulling off another probably 30 units of nitrogen the second year. So there's still some value to this alfalfa, not just 1 year, but 2. Remember, in soybeans, you only get credit 1 year, pound per bushel. In alfalfa, you get 120, depending upon your stand density, right? The thicker the stand is, the more nitrogen credit you're going to get. The thicker more plants means more nitrogen. With soybeans, you only get 1 pound per bushel. With alfalfa, we're getting 150 potentially. So it's a lot of nitrogen that's coming back to your corn crop by rotating alfalfa. We've already talked about this scoring thing, so I won't spend a lot of time on that slide. But that's kind of the reading the stand discussion. Any questions on that? Kevin had asked me to talk to you a little bit about fertility, and I know the co-op here does grid testing. So we're going to buzz right along here and talk to you about soil fertility now.